Hi, and welcome to Karen's Couch, where we get up close and personal about the questions that stop you in your tracks. So today, the question that we're asking is, how do you live with somebody who doesn't agree with the change that you're going through? You know, a lot of the time we want to experience change in our life, either with our diet, the way that we eat, the way that we think, the things that we believe. We could have been going through a really tough time in the past, but now we feel like we've found ourselves. And sometimes our relationships don't follow the same trend. They don't follow the same desire for change. So we change, but the people around us stay the same. And sometimes it almost feels like they're holding us back and wanting us to stay the same way as we were before. But to us, that feels like going backwards. And it kind of feels like our family or our friends or our loved ones could even be a bit like a ball and chain on our ankle. So today's question is about how do you experience change and still feel motivated and inspired and excited about your brand new journey, yet live with people who don't support your change? How do you actually deal with that? And I also want to introduce you to somebody who's just off camera, and her name's Paula. And Paula and I have been working together for a while. So Paula's going to be asking questions throughout the course of the interview and the presentation today, and on your behalf really. Because sometimes I might not think of an angle that you might or Paula might. So she's here to, I guess, throw in some additional angles or questions that I may not have thought of. So when you hear a voice coming into the background, that's Paula.
It's me.
Very cool. So let's get started. Let's get started on the conversation.
Absolutely.
It's great to go through change, and it's great to understand that you're growing and that you're experiencing new ventures, new ideas, new inspiration, new desires really. And that always feels really enticing and very engaging for us. It's quite tantalizing. You know what it's like. You've been down that road before when you get that whole new inspiration to either change everything in your life or just something small. And you feel elated about it. But then your partner or your family or your parents or your friends don't necessarily share your view. They're either not sharing your view silently and you feel it, or they're not sharing your view vocally and you hear all about it. They're at you, they're telling you how wrong you are, they're telling you that you need to reconsider, and they're telling you that your decision or your desire is not going to work out. Have you ever heard that before? Don't do that. It's not going to work out. Don't get your hopes up. Just in case it doesn't turn out, you'll be disappointed. And oftentimes, you know, those sorts of comments come from a really well-intentional place. You know, the people who love you don't want to see you hurt. But they don't realize that what they're actually doing is invalidating your growth. And it's hard for us to find the language to be able to say, look, back off, leave me alone because this is not really working out for me. I really want to feel inspired, I really want to spread my wings, but you seem to be holding me back, and that's not cool. So let's really address the problem. Let's really address what's going on in a couple of different angles. And Paula, please jump in and...
Don't worry, I will. I'll be asking the questions that, if it doesn't make sense or need more clarification.
Great. So let's start at the first step. When we get a new inspiration or we get a new idea and we get a new desire and we want to go in a whole new direction with ourselves, in whatever way it is, in your health or your business or whatever it is, it doesn't actually matter, it's all the same. So when we get that new inspiration, there's a couple of things going on for us personally. And the first thing that's going on for us is questioning. Is this right? Will this work? Have I got it all covered? Do I know what I'm doing? And chances are the answer to all of those questions is no. And I don't know. Because when you're treading new ground or you're blazing a new trail, you don't know the outcome. It's unpredictable. But what shows up in us is a sense of self-doubt, a sense of questioning. And that's what the people outside of us are seeing. It's all a natural process. It's all a natural part of our evolution and our growth. But the people outside of us are actually witnessing our questioning and unsurenicity. So... So that's what people are seeing, and that's what they're responding to. And then when they respond to our unsurenicity and our getting used to it, finding our feet, discovering the most effective way, while we're going through that process, which could take a week, a month, or a year, and in my case, when I went through it, it took about 3 years for me to actually find self-assurance. But the people in my life were responding to that part of me that was unsure, that was questioning and doubting myself. But it's natural because our path ahead is unpredictable. So it's only normal that we're going to have those sorts of questions. So what happens is when they doubt us and they question us, our natural response is to become quite defensive. It's to become quite resistant and to become quite infuriated if you're anything like me. So I got infuriated, I got really angry and I got really irritated and I got very disappointed that the people that I loved most in the world didn't get it. They just didn't get what I was trying to experience. I was ready to spread my wings. Personally, my journey, I'd been depressed for 6 years and I'd finally found my feet. I wanted to go out and experience the world. I'd been trapped in a cave of darkness for 6 years. Now all of a sudden I'm free. And everybody in my life was responding to the way that I used to be, which was a broken person. Now though, I'm feeling like I could take on the world. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how that's going to feel. It feels very unpredictable, and yes, I felt nervous. And that's what people responded to. When they responded that way to me, I got angry. I got furious, and I got very resistant, so much so that I actually started to cut people out of my life. Because I thought, if you don't support me, you're not somebody I want to have around. Have you ever said that before? I know. I've had conversations with thousands of people who've said exactly the same thing, which is why I thought it was really important to record this for you today. Because we will tend to cut those people out of our lives purely because we think they don't fit. But they've been fitting for years. You know, in some cases, people have been married for 20, 25 years, and now all of a sudden they're saying that their partner doesn't fit. Well, it's not true. It's just that their partner doesn't know how to fit with the new version of you. And when you're questioning yourself and you're unsure of yourself, they then become unsure. And because they don't want to see you hurt or they don't want to see things change, they're going to become resistant to your change, which feels like they're pushing against you and telling you not to change and trying to hold you back. Now, it may very well be true. They may be trying to hold you back because they like the comfort of the old you. It's predictable for them. So they may hold you back. They may want that. They may intentionally want that. That's kind of a different conversation. Because that conversation has to stem around you're getting sure of yourself, you getting clarity, you getting understanding. But you can't have that conversation with your partner who wants to hold you back. You can't have a conversation that's going to change that dynamic until you have 100% rock solid security, surety, and certainty in what you're creating for yourself and self-belief. Because all that they're responding to, remember, is your self-doubt while you're figuring out what your new path is going to mean. And for your partner or your family who really does want to hold you back, they're doing it for their own self-survival. Because for them, survival means keeping things the way that it should be, the way that it's always been, keeping things at status quo. So no matter what the situation is, the people that we love, they're always innocent. They're always just doing the best that they can with what they have. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it. Sometimes it feels like they're definitely attacking us. It's actually not the case. They're just doing the best that they can, trying to survive. While we are growing and expanding and becoming more, it feels like we don't fit anymore. Not quite true. Not quite true.
So Karen, if that's the case and you haven't got to certainty yet, if your partner or family or parents, whoever it is giving you the glass half empty speech, what's something that you can say back to them to explain, where you're at and hopefully try and get their buy-in?
Great question. I would actually say be really upfront and be really honest with your partner or whoever it is that's got the doubt with you. Be really upfront in terms of where you're at. And the language of the conversation could sound something like this. I want to grow, I want to change, I'm doing something different in my eating, my health, my business, my life, whatever area it is. And I'm feeling a little unsupported. But I know that's because at the moment I have doubt. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm not sure. I don't know what I'm doing just yet. It feels a bit unpredictable. It feels a bit uncomfortable. And I may very well make some mistakes. Can you come with me on the ride and just sit back and watch me as I do the things that I need to do without necessarily having input, unless you think that the input's going to help me achieve what I want to achieve faster. Because remember, they're not going through the same change as you are. They don't have the same motivation and the same inspiration that you are, that you do. In fact, quite the opposite. What they're wanting is to keep you the way that you've always been, and to keep the situation or your relationship the way that it's always been, because that's what's safe for them. So this is very much throwing a cat amongst the pigeons for the people that you love. Be upfront, but be bold about where you are. Don't be on shaky ground. Be bold in the context of, this is happening. I am going through this change. I am making this change. The decision is made. And now all that's left is that you come along with me as an observer. That's what we need to ask of the people that we love. Not so much that they criticize us or they give us feedback, because it's not their journey. And anything that people give us along those lines is just more of an opinion, which can sometimes be a little off-putting, or sometimes it can throw us off path. You really don't need that, especially when you've got a whole new idea forming or a whole new way of being forming. You don't really need any kind of input that's not encouraging, enlightening, supportive, and helps you to take the next step forward. Believing in yourself. That's the kind of conversations that you need right in the very beginning, because you really can't handle too much negativity. So just don't open the door to that. Ask the people that you love to become the observers in your life, and to respect that you're asking for a change, and to give you room to change. And I'm sure they'll go on the ride with you with ease.
So Karen, one of the questions that I had, because when I went through my own transformation with my relationship, so my partner, I was changing, was that you sometimes go into teacher mode and you want to share your journey and you want them on board and you want them to do it, which, that's not the right way to go either. So how do you also curb your own wanting to almost drag them on the path with you?
Yeah, get them to come along. That's so understandable though, isn't it? I mean, when you love somebody, you want them to do the same things that you're doing, because you're experiencing such an enormous sense of growth and elation and excitement. And it's only natural you want the same thing for them, right? So, and you know you're learning new things. You feel like you've got the world at your hands, and you've got a whole world of new information, and it's exciting. It's really exciting. And our inclination is to then teach others what we're learning, because we believe they don't know it and need to know it in order to live a better life. And especially when it comes to our partners or our kids, we want everybody on the ride, because their life wasn't as good as it could be if they had this new insight and this new information that you've got. So, you know what? It's actually not about anybody else. It's only ever about you. When the time is right that they go on their own journey of expansion and growth, they'll be the ones to initiate it, not you. While ever we're in somebody else's business, two things are happening. We've left our own business alone to jump into somebody else's life, to tell them how they should or shouldn't be living, what they should or shouldn't be doing, how they should or shouldn't be behaving, what they should or shouldn't be eating, what they should or shouldn't be earning. You know, there's a whole world of things that we should all over each other with that keeps us trapped in each other's business, when really our business is nobody else's business, and everybody else's business is actually not ours. Even the people that we love the most in our lives, like our partner or our kids. Everybody has the ability to live their life and be the best that they can be, and that's the end of that. We don't have a right to tell anybody or express to anybody that we know better than they do. We really don't. And as soon as we do that, what happens is that person lands up having to defend their way of being. They have to defend themselves against you, because they believe that the way that they've been living is right. I mean, there's never been a problem for them. They've been getting along fine, and now all of a sudden you're going through this change, and you think they have to change as well? No, it never works that way, and you know it. So let's stop doing the same thing and expecting a different result, and let's actually deal with what reality is. The reality is you're going through a change, or you're choosing to change something. Be excited about that. Get self-assurance, self-belief, self-esteem, predictability, and certainty around that. and then leave your partners to witness your journey, and your kids. Let them witness your journey and get excited for you, rather than making their journey wrong purely because you decided to go on a change. Stay in your own business. Stay out of everybody else's. That way you become an example of possibility that people can follow, rather than a dictator trying to tell people that their life isn't any good or should be able to be better based on the growth that you're going through. We can never walk another person's path. Each of our paths is solitary. It's a solitary path that we walk. We may walk them together, and we may walk them side by side, which is a wonderful thing. But we each must walk our own path. And we can't walk in the footsteps of another, and neither can they us. Which also brings me back to, don't be expecting your partner or the people that you love to be the ones to determine the predictability and the certainty and give you your answers in this change. Because it's not their path, it's not their journey. They may choose it later down the track after they've seen what an exceptional being you've become, but we have to give them room to do that. But what you want to try to find is people who are further along the same path as you, that you can get your feedback from and your encouragement from. Because our partners, they're very much committed to the way that things have been and the way that things used to be, and our lives that we've set up with each other. It's very habituated and it's very safe, and status quo is what's important to them. You go ahead and make a whole bunch of changes, it's going to get a bit uncomfortable, but I think you can handle it. Stay in your business. Don't get involved in anybody else's, and let's not be telling anybody else what they should or shouldn't be doing. We don't have that right. Nobody can control you, can they? I bet you're answering no right now. I bet you're answering no. So nobody can control you. So why do we have the right to control anybody else? We actually don't. Leave people to be on their own path, but we can influence them by becoming an example of possibility.
One of the most profound things you said to me a while ago was, particularly if it's your partner, that it's not your role to be a teacher if they're your lover or partner. That's their role, and that their teacher will come along. And from personal experience, that's happened. It's true. As soon as I moved away from trying to be the teacher, somebody else who was to be their true teacher came along.
And that's so true. When the student's ready, the teacher appears. And I'm a big believer in that. As a lover or a wife or a partner or a husband, we're not each other's teacher. We're each other's lover and we're each other's partner in life. But we're not necessarily each other's teacher in the context of anything other than relationshiping and loving. When it comes to our own personal experience of growth or our own personal experience of business or health or our own personal journey, that's ours. But in terms of our partner or us being able to teach our partner something, it's not going to work out for us, and it never does. And we all know it. We all know it. When we're in relationship with each other, our safety increases, our sense of security around each other increases. So as teachers in a relationship, we're there to teach each other how to love unconditionally. We're there to teach each other authenticity. We're there to teach each other nakedness. And I don't mean physically, I mean figuratively. We're there to teach each other our bareness of soul, that we can love in spite of all the ugliness that comes out in relationships. That's what relationshiping is about. But when it comes to our own personal journey and our own sense of self, that's our responsibility, and every individual's responsibility. So stay in your business, and let's get it out there. There's 3 types of business. Byron Katie is somebody that I just adore. There's 3 types of business: my business, your business, and then there's universal business. My job is to be the best person I can be, and that's all my business. Your business is to go about doing whatever it is that you would normally do. And universal business is who comes into my life, how much money I have, how long my relationships work, the grass growing, the sun coming out, the colour of the roses, how often my trees, bloom and bear fruit. That's all universal business, and thank goodness, because I couldn't manage any of that. And your business is your business. I can't control you. I can't tell you what to do, and I can't make you do anything. You know that, and I know that. So I'm going to give up making you wrong about the choices that you've made. Do the same thing with your partner. Give up making anybody wrong and just make them right, because they're making the best decisions they know how to make with the resources that they have available. Now, you may know differently, you may have experienced something different or learned something new, but they haven't. So just become an example of possibility that they can follow if they choose it, not because you ram it down their throat.
I think the honesty is the best thing to take away as well. Having the conversation, because you don't want to be going through the journey and then, 6 weeks or a month later you haven't talked about it. So it's the honesty, I think, was the best thing for that.
Be bold. Just be bold about where you are. Don't hold anything back. That's the next piece. It's about sharing yourself. And don't let anybody else's negativity stop you from sharing yourself. That's a big mistake that most people make, is that their partners are negative or their partners feel like they want to hold them back to keep the status quo. So what we do is we tend to shut down and say, well, you know what, you can't handle all my new stuff, you're not interested in what I'm talking about, you're not interested in what I've become, therefore I'm going to shut you out. And that is disastrous. That's a recipe for absolute disaster in any relationship. And if your relationship matters, then I would suggest the best thing you can do is to continue to just be open, inclusive, not exclusive. Be inclusive. If certain things upset your partner or they don't want to hear about it, then don't share it with them. But the only thing that has them get that resistance is they're still unconsciously meeting your self-doubt. So go and get really clear on what you're doing. Go and educate yourself, do the research, become very clear on what you're doing, why you're choosing it, what it's all about, and how it's going to make a difference to your life, and then start living it. When they are ready, they will accept your path, but in their own time. But it doesn't mean you shut them out, and it doesn't mean you make them wrong, just for the fact that they're not on the same path as you. You can do it. Be courageous, be bold, be excited, and stay inspired. You don't have to sacrifice any of that, because guess whose business that is? That's your business, and that's the only thing that you're responsible for. So be bold about where you are, and be excited. And I'll see you on the ride.